Let me start off the LSU preview with a bit of a hard truth, if you're okay with that. If you've got the stomach for it.
Yeah.
I think anyone who claims to know anything about LSU is full of crap.
I think Lane Kiffin himself says he doesn't really know what's going to happen with LSU. So I tend to agree, yeah.
I'm including myself, by the way.
Yeah.
When I say that, because if you go back and listen to another episode we did on the Patreon feed, the Patreon bonus feed at verballers.com, we made this free for all. But we put together an episode where you and I talked through our first AP Top 25 ballot. I was willing to go as high as number 8 for LSU. And as I was digging into this roster, I was reminding myself of why.
Yeah.
Because all too often we find ourselves saying things and then wondering about it afterwards, like, why did I say that? I don't have that wonder when it comes to LSU. I know exactly why I said it. And I still feel really good about this team. There are a bunch of great players back. Clearly, they did some work in the transfer portal, the top overall transfer portal class. But it is notable that this was not a team last year. These guys were not this team a year ago. And it's a lot of like projecting out how we think.
There's a good amount on the defense, which was this team, I think. There's a good amount.
Yeah, I would agree. But there's a lot here that is left to the imagination.
Sure.
Which I think is probably the very point that you honed in on when you were a little bit more suspicious about going that high with LSU. Is that a fair assessment?
Definitely.
So we come into this preview now, basically all new. That makes it even more ridiculous to try and project them out, but we're going to try. Bill Connolly tried. He got them at 10. Brett from Pick 6 has them at 12. Most picks that I've seen have them at worst a top 15 team. 7-6 a year ago. Brian Kelly fired. We don't need to kind of rehash all of that. There was a fair amount of drama with getting Lane Kiffin into the door, but where do you stand with LSU?
There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like, even with as much new as there is on offense. You know, as I was going through the defense and what they return, I guess Deshaun Spears is fresh in my mind, but the secondary looks absolutely loaded. What they look like in the middle of the defense at linebacker looks pretty scary, honestly. The amount of experience, both coming in via Ole Miss in this case, and the return of Whit Weeks in the middle of that defense. There's a lot of upside in this in the defensive line room. There's a lot new, but you can see why it could be quite productive, especially considering the continuity at coach on this defense, with Blake Baker running the defense. It's a really nice starting point. Even with the schedule that LSU has, or what the perceived difficulty in this moment of LSU's schedule, I think the entire season, the entirety of this year,
the whole thing,
the whole damn thing, is whatever it is that happens right before the snap, right after the snap on the offensive line, and when the ball is in Sam Leavitt's hand. Now, it's not a stretch to say, like, well, it depends how the quarterback is. That's how the season's going to go. Of course. I don't know about this offensive line. I'm not sold on this offensive line being of playoff caliber, of being like late November contending for the SEC caliber. I understand a lot goes into overhauling an offensive line. There are very few instances of a team starting over along the line and putting together a high-level line, which is generally what you need to compete in the college football playoff and in a major conference near the end of the season. I like where they are at a lot of these skill positions. I don't know if I love whatever the ultimate pop is at receiver, but I think there's definite quality at receiver. I'm not there yet. I think they'll be good. I think Sam Leavitt is not overrated, but there are concerning elements to his game even when he's healthy.
Be careful how often you say the name Leavitt. He does
I know.
bill.
He does charge.
He charges.
That's where I'm at with LSU right now. Because, look, the running back room is interesting. It might be like the Wisconsin transfer starting, right? Dylan Jones. He's been flashing at camp early on, but everything's up in the air. Jordan Seaton, hell of a headliner along the offensive line. Not necessarily known for paving the way on the ground as much as he is silencing dudes on the edge, rushing the passer. I really like LSU. I think they're going to be able to win games with defense and kind of not screwing up on offense. I love that Lane Kiffin is calling this offense. It's a lot in year one. it's a lot to ask that they are like a double-digit win team in year one to me.
I mean, it would be even more of a circus if they end up being a double-digit win team. And I'm not even saying that in a bad way, but it's fairly evident that if you followed this coaching search that got Lane Kiffin here in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it was a coaching search that involved at one point the governor, at another point scorned members of a yoga class, and then to put a bow on it all, the tender hug on the tarmac between Marty Smith and Lane Kiffin himself.
Never forget.
So we've had a lot go on in a very short period of time. Then on top of it, you had this portal haul, which brought over Sam Levitt, Jordan Seaton, Prince Will Umanmielen, Ty Benefield, TJ Dottery, Trey Wilson, Jace Brown, Winston Watkins, Husan Longstreet. I know there are names I'm leaving out, but that's a pretty damn big haul.
Yeah.
To try and assemble all of those pieces into working order in a short period of time, and then, if he can, translate that somehow into a 9 or 10 win season, yes, the circus continues because they're probably a playoff team. I agree with you. On the Sam Levitt front. So Sam Levitt missed all of spring after having foot surgery. He had some hardware removed from a previous injury that he had.
Right.
As of last week, no visible brace, no limp, seemingly no restrictions. Lane said he's all the way back. If he is back, I think he fits his system really well. And I also think he's got a lot to prove, which is not the worst combination in the world. His mobility is absolutely something that they're going to take advantage of in this offense. If it works for Kiffin in year one, it's because, A, Sam Levitt is playing and is healthy and is able to use that mobility. It's B, because the line plays better and they can actually build something of a rushing attack. And it's C, one of, if not 2 or 3 of these running backs pop to varying degrees. And of course, I'm speaking of Caden Durham, Harlem Berry, and as you mentioned, Dylan Jones, who comes over from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like, I'm with you on the wide receiver room. I'm not fully there, but I like the names. I want to see how they use them. Mm-hmm. But I really think, in the words of the wise prophet David Pollock, it all starts up front.
Point of attack?
Point of attack.
Yeah. I think we are probably using a choice couple of games from Sam Levitt to evaluate. I mean, look, he wasn't their first choice, maybe even not their second or third choice, but he's there. We know he has upside. But you're looking at the Iowa State game from 2 years ago and hoping to get that version, essentially. Yeah. It wasn't a particularly good game against Texas, though he put them in position to win a couple of years ago in the playoff. And last year's performances, he's hobbled, and it's unfair to judge him based on where he was or wasn't last year. But the performances weren't overwhelming for Sam Levitt and ASU last year. Some close wins, some disappointment, and an injury. So I'm willing to believe that Lane Kiffin can get the most out of basically any quarterback, which is why I am a believer in what Sam Levitt, as a healthy quarterback, can do this year. It's just, I have a lot of curiosity about what you can do in that first year with so much new. Because Curt Cignetti has obviously thrown everything off in terms of expectations in year one, but I don't think Lane Kiffin is Curt Cignetti. I think he's a really good coach, but I don't think he's Curt Cignetti.
I also think that he will have something of a backstop because of the defense.
Agree.
The defense is going to be a wall. Like, I'm with you. I like that.
These corners, the secondary, the back half in general.
With Whit Weeks and TJ Dottery at linebacker. Then in front of them, you've got Prince Will Umanmielen screaming off the edge. The secondary is really good talent. Maybe a bit thin, but like DJ Pickett's the anchor back there. They're really good at all 3 layers of that defense. It's just, honestly, to me, it's going to come down to Sam Levitt and the line. Sounds like it could be a little honky-tonk band.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's every reason in the world to expect progress and development from what was a very good defense, all things considered, with what the offense wasn't last year. So there's terrific reason to believe that, maybe short of obvious talent on the inside of the line, I think there's obvious potential and obvious upside, but not absolute monsters or proven monsters on the inside. Some youth, some rotation guys. Aside from that, if they can stop the run and get off the field, they're going to smother everybody in that back end. So I think the starting point is great. It's a weird thing to say, like, basically 2 years after having a Heisman winning quarterback, or I guess 3 seasons after, that the concern is, different coach, different system, different everything. But like the concern is offensive pop, something they haven't been able to find consistently.
And there's not a ton of runway.
But that's why Lane Kiffin's there.
That's why Kiffin's there, but there's not a lot of runway. And
no, there's not.
If you're already kind of building this thing, trying to get some cohesion from a bunch of guys who haven't played together before, at least on, one side of the ball, it's going to be tough because they open up week 1 with Clemson. Say whatever you want about Clemson, but game's at home. I think that'll be a tough game. Week 3 is the monster game that everyone's got circled when they're on the road at Ole Miss. And then right back home in week 4 against Texas A&M. There's a softer spot on that schedule in between then and November, but then it's Bama at home, it's Texas at home, they're at Tennessee, they're at Arkansas to close. Win total is 8.5. I think for the people out there who our community, certified and premium for ballers, who can play the grand total game, the over-under game that we've got out in our Baller portal, check that out. The win total is 8.5, which is a really interesting number. It's a number that caught me off guard. I look at the schedule, I get it. Obviously, I understand the circumstances here that got us to this point in time with LSU, but that still feels really low to me. Like, I think if it works, I think they're easily over that number. If it doesn't, I still have a hard time believing they're going 8-4.
Right.
The talent that they've got in this roster. So I'm inclined to be a fairly confident over here, but I certainly understand the case for the under.
I think I'm over. I think they're probably a 9-win team. I don't think I can go much above that. Now, when you look at their schedule and your own private perceptions, right, of this team or of this team's schedule.
Private perceptions.
Yeah, well, look, you can't just say like, oh, they have the 7th hardest schedule. They have the 44th hardest schedule. Like, whatever you think about Kentucky or Arkansas or Auburn or Bama or Texas, that is going to color whatever it is that you think of this schedule. But there's reasonable minds that can agree that Texas A&M, Alabama, Texas, and probably Tennessee, at least after those first 3 weeks, we got Ole Miss, we don't know, but there's enough evidence with those programs right now. We're like, it seems like those are going to be challenges for everybody.
Yeah.
We're not positive what Ole Miss is going to be. They're probably going to be a team that can score some points. I'm not deeply in love with a lot of these teams on the schedule. I like a lot of these teams to varying degrees. The LSU question is going to be, how quickly can the offense come together, Sam Leavitt's health, and essentially, can they win 50-50 games? And what type of depth is going to be needed week 7, week 8, week 9, week 12, something like that? Because you are throwing together starters on the fly and backups on the fly in a lot of these cases. And they're not necessarily used to Lane's system or Blake Baker's system in terms of some of these backups and starters. So that's what I question later on in the schedule, that like they're up on Tennessee late, but they can't close the deal. And it's, 31-28 Tennessee or something like that. So 9-3 is where I land as a, guesswork projection.
9-3. Yeah, I could go 9-3. I think there's potential to go higher, but I think 9-3 is a good starting point. And I like the over. I do.
Yeah, I'm not in love with a lot of these teams. Like, you can stack them up and say like, oh man, it just keeps on coming. But then like when you actually break it down, you're like, hey, all of these teams have what appears to be pretty deep flaws. Now the home road splits or whatever, but I don't question that LSU is going to get to a good place offensively eventually. Seems like it's going to have to happen pretty quickly if you're going to be matching points against teams like Ole Miss or A&M or something. But no, there are obvious weak spots for basically all of these teams, maybe other than Texas, on this schedule.